If we're going to create a culture of trust, then we have to design the processes, the strategies, and the structures of the organization to support that culture of trust. And frequently we don't do that. We may put forth an ideal of trust, but if we are, for example, if we have detailed rules about every single thing about the organization, and we don't allow the judgment, the good judgment of the team members in the organization to make subjective calls, in a sense, those detailed rules, while sometimes necessary in certain circumstances, if we don't empower people, we do tend to undermine the ethos of trust. So it's one of the best, I can't remember the organization, but their entire employee handbook was like on one page. Use your own best judgment in all situations. And that was their employee handbook. Clearly no lawyer wrote that. And it's essential, though, that an organization, to the greatest degree possible, empower the people within it to use their own best judgment to solve the challenges that come up for the organization, instead of falling back on detailed rules that may not be applicable in this unique situation. And to the degree that you have detailed bureaucratic rules, to that degree you probably don't have a high degree of trust. You're substituting the bureaucratic rules for trust. Because you don't trust, you put the rules in. So I think an organization needs to examine that. And creating the act of empowering people to serve the mission of the organization is a very important value as well as process in order to create trust. Because when people are allowed to do that, they feel that they're trusted. Oh, the company's depending on me to solve this problem. They don't fall back on going to the next bureaucratic level higher. We all have that unpleasant experience where we're dissatisfied with something. We go complain about it, and the person just shrugs and says, they are kind of saying, you know, I agree with you, but my hands are tied. This is the rule. And they say, well, let me talk to your boss, or let me talk to the leader above you. You go talk to them, and they'll say, gosh, I'm sorry, sir, but this comes from New York, or this comes from Austin. And there you have a dissatisfied customer, and the organization undermines their ability to, the rules of the organization undermine the ability of that person to solve that customer's needs. That's an example of a lack of empowerment and a substitution of bureaucratic rules which undermines trust in the organization. I think one of the most important processes that we want to put in an organization to encourage trust is transparency. Think about it, to the degree an organization is not transparent, to that degree we're communicating, we're not transparent because we don't trust you to have this information. This could get out to a competitor's hands, this information could be abused, and so we tend to oftentimes give information out as a need-to-know basis. I kind of hate that phrase, as need-to-know basis. That's kind of a military metaphor, I think, is where that idea came from. And I do think when you tell somebody that, I don't really think you need to know that information, you're telling that person, yeah, I don't trust you. And so, of course, every organization can't be totally transparent. There needs to be certain restrictions. It has to protect itself. But I do think organizations err on the side of opaqueness rather than transparency. And trust equals transparency, or transparency equals trust. So I know at Whole Foods Market, we have sort of radical transparency within the organization. We try to share we have open salary information, for example, so people can see what other people get paid. We share our financial information as widely as we can. As a public company, there's certain limitations that the government puts on us to our degree of transparency, or otherwise we'd be far more forthcoming with certain financial information. But to the greatest degree possible, we do share that because we trust our team members. And yeah, sometimes that gets abused. But I think in general, organizations are overly careful here, and And I think that they should err on the side of becoming too transparent and take the risk of some information leaking out in competitive ways they prefer not to. The trade-off of that is you empower your workforce to a greater degree, you create and reinforce trust, and to that degree you unleash creativity, and the organization is that much more vital and vibrant. So I do think every organization needs to think through the transparency issue and try to debureaucratize as much as possible the rules, the silly rules, that prevent vital information from flowing throughout the organization that will empower the organization and unleash the creativity of the organization. So I think transparency is very important.